The Bills get Josh Allen, a true wide receiver one, and trade for DJ Moore, changing the fantasy outlook for both the Bills and the Bears offensive players heading into 2026. We dig into the fantasy impact of this trade on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Fantasy Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network. I am one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Huge news today comes down that DJ Moore is getting traded to the Bills, and they pay up, right? They send over a second-round pick for DJ Moore. They get back, obviously, DJ Moore and a fifth-round pick. So it's a 3-round change there, but a second-round pick for an aging wide receiver, we shall say. He'll be 29 years old here shortly, but I think it was a great move by the Bills. If they didn't feel like they were actually able to pay up for A.J. Brown, right? Because the rumors were that the Bills were very involved in trying to trade for A.J. Brown. But if they couldn't do that, I think DJ Moore is a great piece to give Josh Allen as a true wide receiver one. I know his numbers have not been great the last 2 seasons, but I think he is a very, very good wide receiver.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's happened the past 2 seasons is first he had that offense that didn't quite work out. Then they hired Ben Johnson and the offense took off in a different direction. And either way, you look at it for DJ Moore, I don't think he had real chemistry with Caleb Williams. We had all that drama in the first year that he was getting frustrated with the rookie quarterback and the way they were calling plays for him. And last year, it was just he would go into some games being the big target. Some games he would disappear. Mm-hmm. And DJ Moore is the type of guy that likes to be greased here. He wants consistent targets in every game. He feels like he should have a chance to make a difference in every game. And one thing about DJ Moore it's a little bit underrated. He's on the field all the time. He is very durable. I mean, he hasn't missed a game since 2020. He's played 17 games in the last 4. So this dude gets out there. He's a baller. He doesn't really complain. He kind of grinds out there, does his thing, even though it was kind of rough here with Caleb Williams. I'm not saying it was either's fault. They just couldn't get on the same page. Remember, his biggest fantasy season of all time is with Justin Fields. He was wide receiver 10 that year in 2023 because Justin Fields basically stinks, and he had to get the ball to DJ Moore as much as possible to move the ball. And then, of course, he had those monstrous games, one against the Commanders that was just inflating his stats. Well, overall, I mean, he's been pretty on the lower end going back in terms of the fantasy, and he's about a wide receiver 2-3 borderline when you look at his career. Interestingly enough, that's where he was in the 2 seasons with Joe Brady. Wide receiver 23, wide receiver 30. Yeah, we remember those days. The 2 years that Joe Brady was the Panthers offensive play caller and coordinator. So, look, there's some history there. Last year, he fell all the way down to wide receiver 43. He was saved by a few big games. The year before, only wide receiver 32 with Caleb Williams and that bad offense they had pre-Ben Johnson. So when you look at it, I think it's really helpful for the Bills. They get a bona fide number 1. Look, Khalil Shakir and really anybody else, starting with Keon Coleman, just not getting the job done. This is talking about a wide receiver 4 to start out with, a wide receiver 48, and then 63 for Keon Coleman. They haven't had a guy relevant here since Stefon Diggs was killing it as a top 12 receiver. I don't see that necessarily for DJ Moore, but I think he's going to be a lot better and a lot more useful. I think he's somewhere, to me, Michelle, right now, between wide receiver 18 and wide receiver 36. Somewhere.
Oh, wow.
I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. But we'll get more as we go along here because his history, the one thing I'll say, Michelle, that I'm a little concerned with, he's not a big touchdown scorer. That's always been the thing that keeps him away from really having the big season. And he was awesome in that year with Fields, but still only finished with wide receiver 10 because he didn't score at the same high rate as some of those really elite receivers. So there's just a, quote, fantasy buzzword, wide range of outcomes for DJ Moore. But I'm going to lean a little bit more toward the positive side that he's going to bounce back from where he was kind of in that wide receiver 3 range of late.
Yeah, I agree. And when they used him last year, he was still very, very productive. There was only 5 games. He even saw 6 targets last season. In those 5 games, he averaged 15.6 points per game and half PPR. I mean, that would have put him at wide receiver 4 in the season, tied with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So when they decided to have him a big part of their offense in any game plan, he thrived. It's just the issue of there was a lot of guys there. It was a new system. Caleb Williams and him clearly do not have a connection. It's just it's not working. It was not working out for them. So I know the Bills maybe overpaid a bit for that second rounder, but I really, really like DJ Moore going to the Bills. I don't think it's going to affect the Bears like production all that much, but I do think it can really help give Josh Allen that true wide receiver 1. Just looking at guys last year in games with at least 6 targets, DJ Moore ranked wide receiver 8 in terms of points per game when a wide receiver saw at least 6 targets in a game, behind only Puka Nacua, JSN, George Pickens, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase, Drake London, Alec Pierce, which we'll be getting into with some free agency later this week. But and then it's DJ Moore. So very interesting here. But now that he moves to the Bills, he's clearly going to be the wide receiver 1, unless they make some other crazy move, right? And he gets Josh Allen. Where are you going to rank him for fantasy in 2026? And let me give you some options here. So right now, Jameson Williams is sitting at wide receiver 18 in rankings. Would you rather DJ Moore or Jameson Williams in 2026?
Yeah, it's hard to go against Jameson Williams. I just think that Lions offense is going to be a little bit more dangerous. I just feel like it's going to open it up a little bit more with Drew Petzing in there. We saw some of the big volume games with Jacoby Brissett and that Cardinals offense with Petzing. So I think they're going to throw a little bit more. I think they want to get more downfield oriented. So, and I just think that in general, the Lions are going to put up overall just a lot of points and yards, and they have less people that they're looking at. And I think they're going to be less run heavy than they were before.
Yeah, I completely disagree in that. I would definitely go DJ Moore. With Jameson Williams, you never know when his targets are going to come or go. He could have bigger games, but the consistency, I think, will be with DJ Moore as the wide receiver 1 for the Bills. So I would rather go with him. Now, T. Higgins, let's move up here a bit. Wide receiver 15 in consensus rankings, but I'm guessing if you're going to take Jameson Williams, you would also take T. Higgins over DJ Moore.
Yeah, I mean, the volume of the Bengals passing is just insane. Keep in mind, this is also what I'm thinking about, is the Bills are still at heart a very good running team. So how many opportunities they're going to have, I still don't think their defense is going to be as down, right, without Sean McDermott. I think they'll still be effective on that side of the ball. So when we're looking at this, I think I look at the volume. The Bengals are like a 67% passing team when Joe Burrow's on the field, where I think when you look at the Bills, they might cap at 60%, which is still very healthy in what you throw. And like most teams are in that range. But that's where I would like it with Higgins and Chase. Plus, there's not a lot there, right? These are the guys that they're going to be targeting. There are some other people that are going to get some targets for the Bills, including the tight ends and the receivers. So it's not like DJ Moore is just going to get all those targets. So I think you look at the upside number 2. I think that's the hardest thing. That's why we're debating this. Williams and Higgins are like really good number 2s versus a guy that's the top that hasn't been as good even as a wide receiver 3 in a different situation. So it really comes down to how much does he shoot up from wide receiver 43. So I think that's where I'm at, is like, how far can he really go up from that? And especially with his career high being wide receiver 10.
I think I'm going to be willing to put him as a top 15 wide receiver this year, because, like, I mean, this is where it starts at wide receiver 14 in consensus rankings right now. It's Tedero McMillan. I think I feel better about DJ Moore with Josh Allen and the targets he'll get than McMillan taking that step forward. Now, it's very, very close. McMillan has a higher ceiling, of course. Now, and then it's T. Higgins, a wide receiver 2, Garrett Wilson coming off an injury with no quarterback, Devontae Adams at his age and lower production outside of the touchdowns. I already said I would rather him than Jameson Williams. Ladd McConkey could be the one where I'm like, okay, I'd rather Ladd McConkey. That would be a close one than to say Flowers and Jalen Waddle. Like there's a lot of guys there where I'm like, yeah, I would rather just take the shot on Josh Allen's true wide receiver 1 than go for those guys. So I think I will have him ranked as somewhere close to wide receiver 15. But Khalil Shakir now, unfortunately, I think is just out as an option for a draft pick, right? He was a clear top wide receiver for the Bills this year, and it still only turned into 3 games, or actually 2 games with more than 13 fantasy points in half PPR. I know, like, big games. It was 15 and 17 points, fewer than 10 points in 12 of 16 games. So with him now moving to the 3rd target or 4th target on the team, I'm completely out on him or Keon Coleman.
Yeah, you absolutely cannot go there. And really, you might be questioning Dalton Kincaid. I mean, his highest finish here is tight end 11. But when you look at the tight end 11, it would have put him more like tight end 14. We've talked about the down season for the tight ends in terms of the scoring. So it would actually put him back to where he kind of was before if it had been a normal season of scoring. So he's only up there because it was a down scoring season for tight ends. So, yeah, this really crimps the style of Dalton Kincaid, but I think everything has, right? Even when Kincaid has had the opportunities, you haven't seen it go off because he's had the injuries, or Dawson Knox cuts into his workload, or they just throw it on the receivers. But yeah, I want to be cautiously optimistic, enthusiastic about DJ Moore. I just don't know if they're going to change their entire offense. Again, wide receiver 10, we know he can get there, and we know that's possible, but I think that was with Fields, who is not as good a quarterback close to Josh Allen, who can spread the ball around, lean on the running game. I mean, that Bears team actually was pretty run heavy because of Fields' running that season. So the Bills could have a similar profile. But I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to say he's been around wide receiver 30, 35, somewhere there. His high is wide receiver 10. I'm going to put him right around wide receiver 20. So just outside the realm of those guys, I just don't know. Again, without the touchdowns, which hasn't been his thing throughout his career, can he break into the top 10, top 15? That remains to be seen. I think the volume and key stats are going to be there, but he's going to have maybe some efficiency issues, chemistry issues. He's got to get those down with Josh Allen before I feel more confident. I might come around to where you're thinking, right? Wide receiver 15, but right now, conservatively, I'm going, if I see 2-0 or after, I'm really thinking about taking DJ Moore.
I think that is all very fair. We will now transition into how this impacts the Bears wide receivers and tight ends and Caleb Williams and all of that. We just got to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
All right, let's get into how this impacts the Bears players with DJ Moore now gone in Chicago. Before we get to that, I just want to remind you, if you're already here with us every day, now it's time to take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club just for $5 a month. You get our shows every day, Monday through Friday, with no interruptions, no ads, members-only Discord access, and more. Again, $50 a year, or you can do $5 a month. Go to lockedonfantasyfootball.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, Vinny, when you're looking at this trade now, did this excite you more for Rome Odunze or Luther Burden? I mean, right off the bat, Luther Burden is going to get more playing time, right? So that's great. But Rome Odunze was the top guy there last year, even missing 5 games. And Burden was already ranked as the wide receiver 24 in consensus rankings for next year, with the DJ Moore still being there. So I don't think I could move him up any further than that. Honestly, like, that's already a crazy price.
Yeah, maybe people are anticipating this. And
Yeah.
DJ Moore, it seemed like the writing was on the wall there. Maybe we're not anticipating for DJ Moore because he was still in the 40s at last I checked. So he will go up significantly. It'll be interesting to see where the consensus puts Moore. But this was surprising to see for sure. When I looked at it, I said, Luther Burden's at 24? Because we were talking about those guys before. He's not far behind that Jameson Williams, T. Higgins, Ladd McConkey, Garrett Wilson group that we just discussed, which might seem shocking, but then you start to draw the parallels, right, with the Ben Johnson offense. Who are the two guys that went off, the slot guy and the tight end? Those are the guys who made the plays, and is Rome Odunze the more volatile, so to speak, Jameson Williams of this group right now? We just talked about Williams. Is he the big play guy, the outside guy? I know the draft capital says Odunze, drafted in the same first round high with Williams, should be on paper the guy, but I talked about this before. I know whatever we think about Luther Burden III as a talented player, we are mixed on that a little bit. He still plays the vital position. And also, Olamide Zaccheaus is a free agent. So he was cutting into some slot work. So if he's gone, DJ Moore is gone, they're going to have to throw to Burden a lot in the middle field. I think there is some chemistry with Williams and Burden. So it's kind of interesting. It was kind of addition by subtraction, because now it's like I don't have to force the ball into DJ Moore if I'm Caleb Williams because we're paying him. Now I can get my young receivers involved. I think Odunze is the better big play threat on the outside. Burden is a better slot threat. So just by going like Ben Johnson calls plays, I mean, I'm not going to say this is going to be Amon Ross, Sam Laporta part 2 with this situation in Colston Loveland, but the blueprint is there for Burden to be the bigger scorer right now than Odunze. And it might just come down to who scores more, who gets a little bit more volume of targets. I could see easily Burden being targeted more and scoring more than what we get from Rome Odunze, but Odunze is a big play guy and does maybe gets more yardage, right, with the big plays that he does on the outside.
Yeah, and what I will say about Odunze is that maybe it's a little bit different from this Lions offense, because Odunze did lead this Ben Johnson offense in targets last year, even though he only played 12 games, even though he was dealing with a stress fracture in his foot, playing since October, where he played the majority of games with this injury, missed the last 5 games of the season. Still, like, I'm not even saying just from weeks 1 through 13, he led the team. It was the entire year. Despite missing 5 games, he still led the team with 90 targets. DJ Moore played a full 17 games. So did Luther Burden played a 15 games, but only 60 targets there. I don't know if I'm ready to say Luther Burden's better than DJ Moore, right? If DJ Moore couldn't do it in this offense and being that slot type of receiver, why now Luther Burden turns into this role that all of a sudden Ben Johnson's going to be like, you're going to kill it and be so much better. So I'm going to stick with Rome Odunze here. I think he can even get more targets than he did last year, and he doesn't need as many as a guy like Burden at all to produce. And I mean, to start the season, he was absolutely on fire. He was killing it. And then in October, unfortunately, he dealt with that stress fracture, and you saw his production go down with only a couple big games in there. And then it was just really bad. And then they shut him down the rest of the year from weeks 14 on into the playoffs because it just wasn't getting better. With Burden, you would have thought they could got him more involved last year as a rookie. He had 2 big games last year, one against Dallas, one against the 49ers late in the year with no secondary or defensive players healthy. But I think Burden's price is way too high. I'm going to lean Odunze here, wide receiver 31, even if it moves up with DJ Moore out. I'm going to be on the Odunze train for sure over Burden. Now, Colston Loveland, though, does this, we talked about this on yesterday's show, like the tight end 3, that's where we think he should be after McBride, after Bowers. But this really solidifies him there where we feel pretty confident about that ranking.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Where is Caleb Williams going to throw more to? The middle of the field, then we'll see. I mean, what I look at is Loveland being the number 1 target on this team. I could easily see that they throw him all over the field. We'll see what happens with Cole Kmet. They might be more compelled to keep him now with DJ Moore out of the mix, and if they want to have some versatility in the 12 personnel. So something we want to watch there. But Kmet is not a factor that we're going to consider too much. It just gives them a little bit more versatility in the way they align and makes them harder to defend, which makes Colston Loveland all the more dangerous there if they have to pay attention to Komet as well. So, yeah, this is great for Loveland. I mean, I think everyone could see he was emerging as the go-to guy. Ben Johnson knows who's making the plays. Yeah, I think that Odunze Burden thing is going to be something to watch. It's going to be, is Odunze getting healthier? What his role is going to be? What do we get from reports in camp? Or are they going to give Odunze some slot snaps? Are they going to give Burden some outside? Like if that role reversal is there or they're moving them around in the formation, then you might feel, okay, Odunze might get the same opportunities inside that Burden might, and then you're, okay, then we might be on Odunze, right? But they've got options right now. And all this says between these three guys and not having to worry, I think this taking DJ Moore out of the equation just is going to be really easy for Caleb Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw to these three guys. It's going to be easy for us in fantasy because, like, we don't need to worry about too many mouths to feed. 3 is the sweet spot, right? In any passing game, 3 is the sweet spot for fantasy. 2 is even better, right, when you have a T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. But here now you have 3 very viable options and an elite tight end coming up. So I'm excited about the Bears offense. This is what I might say about Caleb Williams when I said he could be the third quarterback on the board. You're on your way when you got these type of weapons here. So they can afford to make this move. The Bills needed to make this move. So hopefully it'll all work out and everyone will be happy and we'll get the fantasy numbers all shoot up from all 4 of these guys.
Absolutely. And yeah, you already brought it up. Like Caleb Williams should not be moved at all with this trade. He didn't have a good connection with DJ Moore anyway. So hopefully he can just keep continuing building that connection with Odunze, Burden, and Loveland, and he'll be just fine. Now, we'll take a quick break again and then close out today's show talking about other wide receiver news and rumors, including where will A.J. Brown end up now if it's not with the Eagles and the Bills are out. We'll get to that right after a quick break.
All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is sponsored by BetterHelp. March is a time to celebrate women, especially around International Women's Day, and to recognize just how much they carry at work, in relationships and families, and all the unseen roles they step into every single day. It's easy to celebrate that strength, but it's just as important to make space for their emotional well-being. And honestly, that goes for all of us. Really, I think about my wife when we bring this month up and how much he carries without always saying so. It makes me think how many of us are doing the same thing. The roles we play, the expectations we carry, the pressure we don't always talk about. Therapy can help with all of that, creating balance, setting healthy boundaries, and supporting your overall well-being. With more than 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served worldwide, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, and it works. Fill out a short questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and if it's not right and a good fit, you can switch at any time. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP, BetterHelp.com/lockedon, and find your online therapist help today. All right, Michelle, it is time to close the show. And we did talk a lot about this DJ Moore trade. It's pretty big here. Now, the trade that we're waiting for now is A.J. Brown. Will this go down? The Bills were supposed to be a suitor here. Now, 2 teams that keep thinking about the 49ers, who have a big opening at wide receiver. Really, any team that could go after a wide receiver in free agency. Talk about the Giants. They've been also there, but unfortunately, the Eagles are in the same division. And the other team you think about, of course, is the Saints in the reunion with Kellen Moore. Now, do any of these things appeal to you, or does it look like he's going to stay in Philadelphia at this point, Michelle?
I mean, at this point, it seems like every year it's like, will Brown be traded? Will A.J. Brown be traded? Like maybe it's just best if he and the Eagles just separate, right? The 49ers make too much sense. I think he'd be great for that team. Tampa Bay would make a lot of sense if they don't re-sign Mike Evans. The Commanders, they're in desperate need of wide receivers outside of Terry McLaurin. But then also the Patriots are always going to be a top headliner here. They just cut Stefon Diggs, right? Yeah. Reunion with Mike Vrabel. That would be for A.J. Brown, who was incredibly upset on live television during the draft when the Titans traded away A.J. Brown to the Eagles. a handful of years ago. So maybe Vrabel's like, I will pay whatever to get A.J. Brown back, give him to Drake May, fully go this. Like, that would be great as well. So lots of landing spots for him. I think I could see the Patriots probably being the most likely one with the Bills out now. Now, I mentioned Stefon Diggs was released by the Patriots. Do you think he has anything left? Is there a good landing spot for him where he could have some fantasy production?
Yeah, I'm getting worried about Stefon Diggs, and not only him, but Tyreek Hill. They both have their history of injury. They're both 32. They both have diminishing returns. Hill wasn't even available last year, and then you have Diggs, who we were talked about a lot down the stretch. You were happy if you got 50 yards receiving out of him as we went forward, and he really had a quiet Super Bowl and disappeared when they needed him, and they had to rely on Mac Hollins a lot in that game. In the biggest game, when you have to go to Mac Hollins and Diggs disappears, you're going to be cutting him. So this is what happens in the NFL, right? I mean, people can tolerate some other stuff until you don't produce. And then Diggs didn't produce. He's got all this other baggage now. We're not quite sure where he's going with the NFL discipline. Will there be something there? But there's all this drama following him now. If he was good, still make an impact like he was, like with the Texans, I think coming off that ACL, the Patriots could take it. But now we've seen this extra year of him disappointing. So I'm not going to hold my breath here on him or Tyreek Hill ever having fantasy impact that we're looking at anymore, just because they're big names. Now, just look out for the smaller names having a big impact. Like, I'm going to throw out a name that you might not think is going to have a good fantasy year, but if he lands in the right spot, a Jalen Naylor of the Vikings. He's been kind of under the radar as a number 3, but if he goes somewhere, I think, again, don't always look at the big names. Look at some of the guys, rising stars that are going to get an opportunity here. So, again, but what do we like about A.J. Brown? He's still in his prime, and hopefully he gets there. But really, I'll be okay if he's in Philadelphia, because it doesn't look like they're going to re-sign Dallas Goedert. Sean Mannion was hired to open up the pass game and help Jalen Hurts and be more accurate. So the Philadelphia, in the end, might be the best place for A.J. Brown as we go forward.
It might be, but I mean, I do think the Patriots would be great for him. I mean, even if he stays with the Eagles, that's fine. With Stefon Diggs, I actually slightly disagree with you. I think he has something left. It's not the same as Tyreek Hill, where he's always relied on speed, right? And now Tyreek Hill has a terrible knee injury. At least Diggs is a couple years out removed from that knee injury. He's never been like this speedster guy. He's been a great route runner, right? So he can still rely on that. And last year, like, yeah, there's a lot of games where he completely disappeared, but there were 8 games he saw at least 6 targets. And when he was utilized in this offense, he did great. It was 14.7 points per game and half PPR, 95 receiving yards per game over those 8 games as well. A lot of games with 100 yards when he just saw 6 targets. So, and all but one game, he scored at least double-digit fantasy points in those games. So I think he could still have something left. Maybe like the Packers could get from Atlanta to go against, to go with Drake London, the Giants to go with Malik Neighbors. Like there's options, maybe the Ravens. So I'm not completely out on him. I think he could be a fine late-round pick. Lastly here, Brandon Ayuk, there was not a report. It was a tweet, I guess I should say. That saying from this guy Lobs all day. I don't know much about him. I don't know his, how reliant he is on his information, but the news coming out is that Brandon Ayuk has not done the correct rehab for his ACL, MCL injury. And that's why we haven't seen a lot of information on him, or like we haven't seen videos on him or anything. That's why the 49ers are taking away all of his money and he's not really fighting it. So I think it all makes sense that maybe his knee's just not ready to go, and it might not ever be ready if he didn't rehab it correctly. Do you believe in those rumors, or do you think he's healthy and he's ready to sign with a new team once the 49ers release him?
Yeah, it's really weird what's going on. I mean, we kind of had something similar happen with Joe Mixon, a little drama with it not exactly knowing what was up with the injury. He didn't get real updates. And, of course, quietly, the Texans were working on the David Montgomery deal, so they didn't have to worry about Mixon's health going forward. So I am just so confused. I mean, Brandon Ayuk was on the top of the world there, getting the big contract and put in line to be very successful as Brock Purdy's go-to guy. Deebo Samuel's out of the equation. I don't know how he botched it, but, like, that's going to be a long road back to fantasy relevance if he can get back on the field. That's a big if at this point. So, yeah, he's just a forgotten guy. But I'm excited because, again, the 49ers have a lot of possibilities now to kind of reset, whether it's A.J. Brown or Mike Evans. You have not only Ayuk in this situation, but Jawan Jennings has also been upset, and he's probably gone as a free agent. And there's some rumors of a Debo reunion. I don't know if I want to see that.
No, thank you.
He's old and faded at this point. So we'll see how this goes here. But the one thing I know, he's not going to play again for the 49ers.
Yeah, definitely not. And we'll see if he can play anywhere. Hopefully his knee's okay. Hopefully he's ready to go. Would be, I mean, if he got to go be with his best DJ and Daniels with Washington, that could be interesting. But we will see if he can ever make it back. That will be it for today's episode. Make sure you subscribe and follow us, Locked On Fantasy Football, to get all the latest episodes. We will be back tomorrow to talk about the dream landing spot for the top free agents as we get into next week with all the free agency frenzy. Cannot wait for that. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Fantasy Football ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonfantasyfootball.supercast.com to join the club, or you can check the link in the show notes. We will talk to you tomorrow. Have a great night. Bye, y'all.